Hola, I'm Elias Torres, co-founder and CTO of Drift. You are listening to the American Dream podcast. Did you know that Drift is part of just 2% of VC-backed startups led by Latin American founders? Well, I'm on a mission to change that. On this show, you will hear from leaders who have achieved their own version of the American dream. We'll talk about what the process looked like to get there, the obstacles they faced along the way, and the work we still have to do to build the new face of a diverse corporate America. Bienvenidos a todos. Today, I'm excited to introduce Pamela Martinez, Pam, to the podcast. Pam is the CTO and co-founder of Snowball Wealth, a platform that provides personalized guidance to pay off debt and build wealth. Pamela started Snowball Wealth after being first exposed to the privilege of generational wealth during her time at Stanford University. Now she's on a mission to make generational wealth a reality for more people by advising recent graduates, particularly women of color and first-generation immigrants, on how they can think about investing. Pamela credits a lot of her early success to the power of community. So today she's going to tell us more about what community looked like growing up and how she's giving back to the community through her company and otherwise. Welcome to the show, Pam. Very
Thank
nice
you.
to have you. Yeah. So I mentioned this episode, right, the power community, and we're going to talk about different communities you've been part of through your life journey, right? Let's talk about the first one. I think we were talking earlier. You were born in Mexico, in Chihuahua. And so tell us about what was that community from transitioning from Mexico to Texas?
Yes, yeah. So I grew up in Chihuahua, and for the first 10 years of my life, I spent my time in Juarez, which is, a border town. So growing up, I was I think I was like very lucky to have grown up in like a really tight-knit community. Like all of the kids knew each other, all of the parents knew each other. So I grew up feeling very supportive and really loved. And being in a border town, I was also exposed to kind of like the United States. We used to cross the border every weekend. I got a lot of exposure to like American culture. And that was one of the cool things about being, growing up in a border town, is that you do get kind of like multicultural exposure pretty early on. And then when I was 10, my parents had this opportunity to move to the United States. So we decided to kind of just take everything we could with us and drive from Juarez all the way to Houston, Texas, which is where, kind of we landed. And that was like a really exciting opportunity for us as the children. And like, it was like a really big, I think for my parents, like they had to give up like their whole community. They had to give up a lot to like move to the United States, move to a new country where none of us spoke the language, and start a brand new life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Been there, done that, right? I did that in 1993 with my mother and my two siblings at the time when we came from Nicaragua. So I came on a plane, so it was not a short drive. It's a short drive in Houston compared to from Juarez. Long story, I drove once when I was 11 or 13, I don't remember, from LA to Nicaragua.
Oh, wow. That
So
must have been
it's
quite
like
a trip.
like the car broke down and like the car could not make it through that road. Central America
Wow.
destroyed the car. We literally pushed it across the Nicaraguan border downhill. And so that's a story for another day. When we came back, we crossed through Juarez.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Yeah. So you've seen that, that city.
but that was in like 1989 or something like that. So I'm a really old person. So then, interesting, right? So it definitely, it's such a culture shock. But I wonder, like, how different was your community from Mexico to Texas? Because if you had a lot of Latinos around you, maybe it was similar, or was it completely different?
I would say, I mean, it was completely different. My dad's side of the family lived in the United States, so we did have some family when we moved to the United States. But in terms of like culturally, it was just like day and night. Like when I was in Mexico, like every single day, like I would hang out with the neighbors' kids. Like we were all outside. It was like very community oriented
And
feel. Oh, go
then
ahead.
you were all cooped up in your apartment and never
Exactly.
saw anyone, and all you did is watch TV and ate cereal.
Yes. Yeah. Like moved to United States and all of a sudden I was spending most of my time indoors and I didn't really know the people around me that well. And I think there's the other thing too, like even though like Texas and Houston is a very like immigrant friendly city and there's a lot of Latinos, I was still an immigrant. I still didn't speak English. So I still felt like I was like an other, like I definitely was the new kid. And when I went to school, I was trying to learn a new language. I didn't really know how to communicate with people. So there was definitely a lot of struggle there. And it's like a huge shock for me having been when you grow up in a city and in a country where like your native language is the dominant language, you're just excelling and you just have so much more confidence. So I think kind of like making that jump did hurt my confidence a little bit when I first moved here, and it was definitely really hard to kind of like get adjusted.
Yeah, no, I love hearing and be able to share people's stories like yours, right? Um, and how smart and how confident you now are, and I'm trying to like not jump to the end of the story, but like I mean I will get to the Stanford bit. I can't control myself,
Yeah.
but it's like this is you don't speak the language, you cross, not a lot of financial support. I would venture to say you guys all trying to make it work with your family, and there's so many amazing things to come. But let's stick to the next step. So you're there, learn the language, been there, done that. I was 17 and did that. I did it twice. I did it when I was 11 and did it when I was 17. And then you love school, right? So you're in school. Where'd you go for high school?
Yes. Yeah. So, something that I like to tell people sometimes, and one of the reasons I got so interested in education is I went to 9 different schools between my K through 12 education.
Wow.
And a lot of that had to do with like, being an immigrant, like I moved from one country to another, going from one school to another. And, when I was in the public school system here in the United States. And for my high school, I had this opportunity to go to something called a magnet school, which is still like in the public school system, but you do have kind of like application processes that you can go through. And it was a career oriented high school. So it was like a new concept. The whole idea was that you would join the high school and you would join a tower. They had a technology tower, a business tower, and a medical tower. And then within the technology tower, they had an engineering program. So I had that opportunity to like apply to the school and go to the school. And I joined the engineering program there in 10th grade.
So you knew you liked engineering, right? So engineering from 10th grade already. You joined this. So what happened? So then what did you go do after high school?
Yeah. So, I think I joined the engineering department because I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And,
That was a good one. That was a good one. That's a great pick.
yeah, yeah, it's so funny because I was like, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And, I was always really good at math and science. And because English wasn't my dominant language and like it was something that I really struggled with, I was like, oh, like I'm never going to make it in like the business side. And I got kind of eked out by a lot of medical stuff. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do engineering. But that kind of high school experience, I ended up not having a good experience in my engineering class. I had a teacher who was not very supportive. I joined the robotics club and he asked me to become like the historian and secretary. And instead of doing actual work in class, he would ask me to write grants and host fundraisers. And, I was at the top of my class and I was trying to be salutatorian for my high school. So grades were really, really important for me. And for one of the events that I hosted, he got really mad because my centerpieces weren't very good for like a fundraising that I hosted. So he gave me a C. And I always kind of like clashed with this teacher and had like a lot of like back and forth. And there was a time where like he would literally tell me in front of everyone else that I didn't belong and I didn't deserve to be top of my class. And that really tainted kind of like, even though this had nothing to do with engineering, it really kind of like tainted my desire to be in engineering. It was a very male dominated class, even in high school. Like there were only 2 girls in the whole program. And it was like definitely kind of like the first time that I encountered like sexism and bias and a lot of antagonism. So that was kind of like my high school experience. I did have a lot of other really great and really supportive teachers around me who encouraged me to, continue like excelling and encouraged me to apply to a lot of different colleges. And that's kind of fast forward, I applied to like, I found out about this program called QuestBridge that allows, lower income kids to apply to a lot of different universities without having to pay for like all of the entry fees and application fees.
Yeah.
So through that, I got into Stanford, and because
You
I was
went
so
straight to Stanford from high school.
yes, for undergrad.
Undergrad, perfect.
Yes, for undergrad. Yeah, so I got into a bunch of different schools, and Stanford was one of them. And because I really didn't know what I wanted to do, I was like, okay, I guess Stanford it is. They have great engineering, they have great like humanities, they have a lot of different programs. I can really go there and explore and really figure out what I want to do with my life.
And what degree did you get there?
So I decided to major in computer science at Stanford.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was the whole, journey of like, I joined, I thought I didn't know what I wanted to do freshman year. I was doing pre-med, I was doing public service. I was doing a bunch of different courses because I really had no idea what I wanted to do. And that first year I really struggled academically as well, like having gone from public school to like a very tough and elite institution with people who were very competitive and very studious was definitely very hard for me. And I was feeling really lost that freshman year. But towards the end of that freshman year, I took a class in photography that was under the CS department. And that was the first time that, one, I really enjoyed what I was doing, and two, I was really good. And like my photos got like shown in front of the whole class. And I was like, okay, maybe I should try this a little bit further and explore this a little bit more. And that's how I started taking computer science courses.
Wow. No, what an incredible journey, and a reminder to people, right, that that you didn't give up, right? And that you kept trying, and like when we have a bad experience, we can't just let that, ruin it for the rest of our lives, right? Because your life would be completely different if you had not, followed these steps, right? And so
Yes. Yeah.
we're glad for, we have bad educators, and it's okay, right? And then you have some good educators that inspire you and lured you back in through photography and through recognition, and understood you better to help you like get into it. Like, I love to hear that. By the way, little proud moment of mine. My daughter is doing computer science at Northeastern. I mean, it's no Stanford, but it's incredible. And I hope the listeners realize and see this, right? It is what a great example you are, a role model, right? Of, again, first language, move, don't have the culture, don't have the understanding of the system. And thank God for that opportunity you had, and that full ride. You got to go there and graduated with a CS degree with one of the top schools in the whole world, right? This is where everybody from Google will go and hire everybody out of Stanford. I'm sure you had every offer to work at any company you wanted in the United States or the world with that degree. And that's a great accomplishment to a Latina, to a woman, to a first generation immigrant. Congrats. You should be so proud of yourself, right?
Thank you. And congrats to your daughter too for, going down the CS route. And,
Yeah.
I hope, I hope she's really liking it. And I think it's like such an amazing career path, and there's so much that you can do. And like you said, I think, it's definitely had a lot of setbacks along the way. And, my first CS class, the actual intro to CS class, my TA pulled me aside and he really encouraged me. He was like, "Hey, look, you're really good at this. You should consider majoring in it." And these are the little moments that I think about a lot now, because especially now that we're like, business leaders and mentors, like giving people that encouragement is something that can go such a long way. Like, especially for people who are dealing with imposter syndrome or dealing with like just, kind of a lot of these struggles, having that extra encouragement and reminding them that like they can do it and they will do it if they put their minds to, and that if they're doing well, making sure that you remind them of that and recognize them.
Yes.
That's something that can really, really help propel those people. And, it's something that really helped me stay focused and stick with, all of, the rest of the coursework to make sure that I graduated and got the CS degree.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, it's like, it's just the little words that we get. I remember in Nicaragua, no, in LA, I had in Nicaragua, like life was really tough. In Nicaragua, if you didn't do math well, you would get hit with a ruler on your arm. It was like really bad. And so like I remember I did good in math because I did not want to get hit with the ruler. I was like the only one that wouldn't get hit on a round of like, the tables, asking for the multiplication tables. I laugh about it, I think. And then when I went to LA for the first time in the US, if I did well in my math, I get the stars and the stickers and the teachers would write all these things. And I'm like, what? This is so much nicer. If I get stars all the time, I'm going to do more math. And because of the language, I also focus on math because it was easier as a continuation, right? And I can, understand numbers. So it's like, love to hear that. So you go to Stanford, and I have here in some of my notes, right, that you're like big culture shock, right, at Stanford. So you go from Chihuahua, you go from Juarez, you go to Houston, and then you go to Palo Alto. You go to California, Stanford. There's like scandals there, so much wealth. Tell me about this. What was the shock? What was the thing that you encountered there?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny just thinking about it now because I'm like, wow, like all of these different lives. When I was in Mexico, like my elementary school, we used to clean the classrooms after school. We would take turns every day. It was a different kid's turn to go and clean up the classroom. My mom was extremely involved in schools, so she would host fundraisers so that we could get heating in the schools. Going from that to like Texas, where same thing with the stars, where I would get like stickers and I could turn in the stickers to get like extra erasers. Like
Yeah.
that, first of all, it's a huge shock.
Yeah.
And then going from like public schools, and the public schools that I went to weren't like rated very highly. They were, like mostly like people of color, immigrant communities. And going from that, I grew up working class. Like my mom's a cashier at a restaurant. My dad has been working in manufacturing. So we didn't really have a lot of money. And the first day of Stanford, like when move-in day, I grabbed my bags. I had like my 2 suitcases, a backpack, and I flew by myself to Stanford. And I checked myself in. I got into the dorm. I got into my room. And all of a sudden, I see parents everywhere. Like all of the parents have flown in with their kids to like help them move in. And that was like the first day, and like everyone's parents were introducing each other. And I was like, wow, like that in its own, that little moment. And that was like the first day was intimidating for me because one, like my parents couldn't afford to fly and drop me off. And that's something that, because people were like, oh, your parents didn't come. And I was like, oh, like, no, I didn't know that they were supposed to come. Two,
Yeah.
they didn't have that disposable income to like pay for a one plane ticket, hotel, rental car to come and drop me off. And then 3, they didn't really speak the language. They would have felt totally out of place, when, the people in my dorm, their parents own multi-million-dollar companies. All of these kids, a lot of them had gone to like some of the top private schools and top public schools in America. And, I think that was the first time that I was exposed to kind of like the other half of America, like the wealthy part.
Not half.
Not half, but I
The
guess
other
the
side.
top 10% of
No,
America,
1%.
the top 1% of America. I
Yeah.
think Stanford prides itself of like bringing in a lot of people from different cultures and backgrounds. But I think even with the diversity that Stanford claimed to have, like it was still like a very like well-off community, and there's a lot of people who had just so much money, and like that was just something that was unconceivable to me.
Yeah.
And that was like a really big shock to me. I was really fortunate that, Stanford did offer me a full ride because, a lot of these private universities, if your family makes under a certain amount, like you don't have to pay for anything, which was like honestly just life changing because I could have never afforded anything like that.
Did they pay for
But
your flight? Will they pay for? Did they pay for your flight?
yes, they did.
Wow. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just not possible.
everything.
It's just not possible. Yeah,
No.
you wouldn't, and like you like I'm almost crying. Like I mean, I can feel that moment. I don't. I had many moments like that, but that moment, my transition into this world has been more gradual in a way than yours. Yours was like shock and awe. You just got transported from one place to the worst, to the highest, utmost highest, right, of elitism, right? And I was kind of like slowly moved up into it, and so it's kind of like I'm like a frog in a pot, just like slowly boiling. You had to feel that at such a young age, and not have your parents. People do not know what the experience is of having a parent that is with you that doesn't speak the language, and you're translating for them, and you're the only one that has to go through that show, right? And how you get judged and how you get looked at, right? Uh,
Yes.
and you had to. So I know it, right? I know what that feels like. Have you watched In the Heights?
Yes. Yeah. I haven't watched all of it, but I've watched some of it. But yeah,
It-
that moment of like it was a big shock for sure. And at that moment, like moving to the United States as a 10-year-old, like I used to translate for my parents. Like I think a lot of us immigrant kids know this. Like I
yeah,
was the oldest daughter, so I was the one who grew up faster. I had to figure out a lot of stuff. Like my parents looked at me for guidance.
yeah,
And this is something that I talk about a lot with people who have parents who are like native to the United States, or parents who are white collar workers. I'm like, look, you don't understand what it's like to like. My parents were looking at me for guidance about like what to do with their money, like what to do with their house, and I was like a 10-year-old. And that just gives you, I think you do learn a lot of stuff really fast, and you learn to grow up really, really fast as well. And it just creates like a different dynamic and different levels of pressure
yeah.
that you have.
No, it's fascinating. There's so much. We can talk, you and I, for days. I think about this shared experiences, and you have had an amazing career, right? You go to Stanford, you show everybody you have the talent, the intelligence, the confidence, and the ability to overcome obstacles. You graduate, you get work jobs at Microsoft, then you say, like, I want startups. I was IBM for 10 years, and then I wanted startups. I see a similar path, and my time will come. I'm going to share some stuff with you, but um, you're now going the founder route, right? Because you had something inside of you that you want to share and that you want to help, right? You want to help others. Tell us about this. Tell us about this company that you're building. Uh, Tell us what's the mission.
Yes, yeah. So I'm working on Snowball Wealth, and our mission is to help people pay down debt and start to build generational wealth. So our main goal is to really help people who, are a few years out of college. You have to figure out how to pay your student loans. You have to pay out, you might have consumer debt like credit card debt, and figure out how to start saving and investing. And the big kind of reasoning behind this is something that I experienced firsthand, and I think a lot of people around me who are the closest to me had to experience this firsthand, where we didn't have our parents to go to for money advice. So we're really trying to build this platform to try to make all of that knowledge and information easy and easily available for everyone. So we're definitely, one of our main tenets is to be very community oriented. Because there is, we're not really only focused on the money and the numbers and the strategies, but we're really thinking about building community within our user base. Because we do know that people need to hear from each other to be inspired. They really want to push each other to do better and really help each other in terms of building really great financial habits and kind of like have this shared dream and shared experiences. And more than anything, I think it's just to really help lift each other up, right? Like I'm living like my parents' dream. Like we came here, like my parents never, my first job out of college, I was making like triple what my parents were making in a year. And that's, I think, the experience for a lot of people who are they're first in their families to graduate and get like a higher paying job. So we're really here to help and focus on these people because one of the things that I learned is that none of the financial industry is not really focused on people like us. It's not built for people who are their first in their families to start making money. They're not focused on people who, have a different experience. Like I've had to help my family financially. And a lot of people who are children of immigrants or they're first to graduate college are doing the same thing. So we really focused on like this demographic because we know that there's a lot of us out there that deserve attention and products that are built for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I think it's a wonderful mission, and I think that I'm a big supporter of that because that's kind of what the same thing that I'm doing with this podcast, right? It's it's I believe 1,000% on role models, right? That inspire us. Like we see somebody, I seen people do things, and I saw Brian Halligan grow a company like HubSpot, take it public with David Cancel, my partner, and I's help. And I said, well, if he can't do it, if I helped him do it, maybe I can do it too. And that's kind of what's one of the inspirations for Drift, right? It's like kind of Latino immigrant, first generation, English is a second language. I did not go to Stanford, but I did go to, I did raise money from Sequoia Capital and I was able to raise over $100 million. And recently we got a strategic investment from Vista for 1.2 billion, right? And so that's kind of where I'm like, want to inspire you, say like, you started your company, similar path. You are most likely 1,000 times smarter than I am because you went to Stanford and you survived that. And so you're going to go and you created a company. You worked at Microsoft, you worked at startups, and now you're a founder and you can too build a multi-billion-dollar company, right? But on top of that, yours is going to help Latinos and immigrants and people of color and women, right? To be able to achieve their own success, their own American dream, which is what I'm enjoying sharing with others, right? So that's your next milestone, and you're gonna do it.
Thank you, and yeah, you're an inspiration to me as well. So thank you so much for sharing that because it's hard, and I think after getting like that first job at a top tech company to going to startup, I think I was like, oh, I've seen startups. I've been early at startups. So I thought that it'd be, I thought I knew. I thought I had it figured out. I was like, oh, I got this. I've built products for millions of people before. I've managed engineers. I've helped engineering teams grow. I've been in product. I've done DEI. Like, I'm sure. How hard could it be? Like, just go out there, get money, hire people, build a product. I think I'm definitely kind of like at that stage now of like, okay, like this is hard. How do we day in and out? Like, how do we build a product that's really solving our customers' problem and growing? And, I think proving that we can be successful is kind of like that next phase of my career right now.
Yeah. You know that saying, if it was easy, then everybody would be doing it. Right. But the truth is, it feels like everybody's doing it. It's an interesting time in the world that all this information is pushing more entrepreneurs and more people to go out on it. But what I feel like is just not balanced, is that we need to share that journey more with Latinos, right? And be like, okay, you too can be entrepreneurs and show people about investment, about investors, about products, about technology, right? And really show people a wealth of options that exists out there, right? Where there's an e-commerce business, where there's a service business, where there is a brick and mortar, where there is investing, banking, and then building product and tech, right? It's just, there's so many options, but we want to make sure that people know about that, because when I first came here, people were saying you should go work at the post office and you're going to have a great retirement benefit plan. And if you work there for, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years, I don't know, that was like the advice I was getting, right? Not how to start a company or how to run a business. And here I am, and I'm like constantly looking for founders. I just sent a text to a friend of mine who's a billionaire, right? I'm like, I get the opportunity to tap into the brains of these people and say, I want to hear what you do. I want to hear what endeavors you're working on. I see you're building companies. I see you're running a VC firm. I see you're running this angel investment. I see you on board. It's like, I want to learn about all those things of how you split your time, which is the most beneficial for you, right? And how do they work, right? And so like, we have to be asking the people that are further ahead in their dreams, how do they do things? And then when they explain them, you realize that it's like, it's a matter of just go for it, like you're doing, right? You said, how hard could it be? I like that, because we have to be naive. It's crazy to build a business, and you need that naivete to jump into it. And then the question is, once you're in it, just like you did it at Stanford, you're going to be able to survive and get through it. It's not, you've done already much harder things in your life than starting a company.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like you have to jump in. If you knew how hard it was going to be, if I knew how hard the next step was going to be in every part of my life, I don't know if I would be where I am today.
Yeah,
Because that fear, and that it's like that status quo, it feels a lot more enticing at that point. And I
exactly.
think kind of like what you were saying, something that is like a really sad statistic is that, Black and Latinx founders get maybe like less than about like 3C of VC funding, right? So we're like grossly underrepresented in the industry. And women founders get about like less than 2% if you're like a all female founded company. So we're already, the odds are already against us in like every way.
Yeah,
So, I think we have to be trailblazers, and we have to push the boundaries, and we have to figure out how to make this work and, help each other along the way, because we really do need to change the face of Silicon Valley.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And what you're doing is so admirable, right? Because like you're combining, you have such a great mission, right? It's like in one ways, my mission, it was, I want to change the way businesses buy from businesses. And then I have a dream of Drift showing and making a dent in how Silicon Valley looks like, right? The face of a diverse corporate America. But I'm focused on like straight business, right? It's like how to impact the way people buy, B2B. You are combining both your mission as a company, but you also want to teach people about finances and to an underrepresented, underestimated community, right? And so I think that that's just fabulous. Tell me a little bit. Tell me a little a story about the kind of outcomes you're able to starting to see or you want to see soon with your company in individuals, in people, in communities. Any story that comes out? I know I'm putting you
yeah.
on the spot.
I think just a quick note too on like, what we're working on. One of the things that we noticed really early on was that this is a huge business opportunity. Like, women, like Black, Latinx, and women, like we are a very big portion of the population. Women make up 50% of the population. Black and Latinx hold a lot of like college degrees and hold the most student debt. So, I think it just was natural for us to start focusing on these demographics because one, it's a great business opportunity. There's a ton of people. Latinos are like make up like the majority of a lot, like 1 point something trillion in terms of consumer power. So definitely seeing that there's like overlooked opportunities in terms of the consumer space, and that's what we're jumping in on this. And then in terms of stories, one of the reasons why we really care about like community is because, as we, rolled out some of our tech platform and started helping out people with student debt, we started hearing success stories. And for example, one of our users, we have a video of her on the internet. It's called like Women Building Wealth series on Snowball Wealth. She came to us. She had like over like 20K in credit card debt, and she was living paycheck to paycheck. And we've had a few of our users who come to us. They're living paycheck to paycheck. They feel like they're drowning in debt. They don't see themselves, or they don't know how they can like kind of break out of those cycles. And she joined kind of like the Snowball community during the pandemic. And, kind of like a year plus later, she paid off all of her credit card debt, is starting to save and invest. She started like a side hustle, and she tried to just gain so much confidence. And it's out there, it's talking about money, it's like talking to other people about her journey and inspiring other people to get on that journey as well. And just having users like this, her name's Rosie, having people like Rosie come in and like really just change their lives has been incredibly inspiring. And, I think one of the things that we've done is try to give people confidence and give them a path so that they know that they can go off and like pay off that debt and get that out of their system and like start saving, and helping people figure out how to stop living that paycheck to paycheck life. So I think that's one of the reasons why I do what I do and why we really care about this community.
No, absolutely. This is it is fantastic. I mean, like it's I'm a I've been I've been through that journey myself, and sometimes I I meet with people that are in that situation, and then sometimes I don't know how to help them, right? Because I came out of that, but I was like, I went to school, I did I did computer science, I worked as an engineer, right? And so that's kind of like my only playbook. It's like, that's kind of, I told my kids, like, they hear me over and over and over, just do CS, you can figure out the rest later, right? It's like, just do that. I don't care what you do after, right? And because I believe that that's the path that I know, right? But there's so many other ways, and I love that you're doing that for people, right? If I were to describe, I'm older, right? So, do you remember Mint? Do you remember
Yeah.
Mint?
Yes,
So,
I
like,
do.
it's like Snowball Wealth, kind of like a Mint, and that helps you connect your accounts and then figure out how you're gonna go tackle debt, and then turn that into savings, and then turn that into investments.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, the way that it works today is that you sign up, you sync your accounts. We have a student debt product so that if you have student loans, you can sync your student loan accounts, and then we give you a few recommendations based on kind of the information that you have. And we also we have a mobile app as well. And we just rolled out recently a community in the product, as well as something called money challenges. And what these money challenges are, they're kind of like savings goals or payoff goals. So you join a challenge, other people join the challenge with you. And they're
Yeah.
a lot of them are like month-long challenges. So you can like be like, oh, I want to pay off X amount in this next month. So we're trying to give like accountability strategies as well, and as well as a community, so that you're kind of like doing this financial journey with other people.
Yeah. I mean, that's so great, because we need to figure out how to do this at scale, right? It's like we can all individually go coach every single person, especially when we're not experts at it. But you're bringing the experts together and at scale coach and mentor a lot of people to go through this, one step at a time. And in no time, it's like in a year or two, people can have their life be completely different, right? Uh,
Yeah, that's the goal. And the way that we make like money is we do have a premium program where you can get matched with a money coach. So we have kind of like the free product, which is like strategies, information. You can sync your accounts and everything's automated. And then we do have like a premium product where you can get paired with a coach. We have a financial advisor who will work with you more hands-on to make sure that if you need extra attention or you really want to talk to an expert, you do have that opportunity to do so.
this is amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for your journey. you achieving, your own American dream. You're able to provide, help your parents, be successful, well educated, and now you're paying it forward, right? So I'm going to share this podcast with my daughter because you're going to be an inspiration to her for what you're doing, because she wants to be a founder someday too. So right now she thinks it's easy, so we'll see. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, and hope you have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the American Dream Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss when a new episode drops. If you like this episode, please leave a 6-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're interested in learning more about my American Dream mission, subscribe to my newsletter linked in the show notes.